Hello and welcome to season 4 of On Mute Now, a season like never before where we present Gen Z voices. This is a youth production of our podcast coming out of our recent mentorship project. We invite you to engage with our young ladies as they join On Mute Now in raising the volume on the whispered conversations in our communities. Our young ladies will share their experiences with you through thought-provoking conversations and, of course, good crack. Come join us right here every Friday at 8 p.m. See you there.
Hi guys, welcome back to another Unmute Now episode 7. And it's me, Debbie. This time we will be hosting on our own. And I'm joined with some new faces. So we have Julia.
Hi.
We have Naomi. We've seen Maury, but she's here again.
Hey guys.
And we have Timmy, my co-host for today. So our episode today is Old But Gold, talking about some things we've experienced in our pasts and just reflecting on it and appreciating it. So I'll hand over to Timmy now.
Yes. My first question today is, what is one thing you've experienced in the past or you've been told about in the past that is gold? When I say gold, I mean like good, like that like sticks out to me. Like, I'll ask Maury first.
Okay. For me, I would say, personally, I think when I was younger, I used to write a lot, I used to draw a lot, I used to color in a lot. And I think it's just a good memory to have because nowadays everything is online. Obviously, technology is booming. So I think just the fact that you can write on paper, just draw on paper, be creative, I think that's, something that's gold for me.
Yeah. How about we'll go Brian,
So me.
Yeah.
I watched these little YouTube videos and they would be like how to make a bank out of cardboard boxes. So I would like ask my dad to buy me super glue and stuff, and I'll just sit in the kitchen making this this little bank with random cardboard boxes from the kitchen. And also my trampoline, I miss that. Yeah, fun times that.
Julia?
So I think definitely for me was my parents. The lessons that they taught me a lot over the years was they helped me grow up in life now and do what I do now. And also the main one that actually stuck out to me most was that you need to be careful of who you trust and how much you actually trust those people, because especially nowadays in Gen Z and the fact that we're all online all the time, that sometimes the people that we meet online, they're not who they say they are. They're not actually how they say they are. So you just need to be careful of who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah. I think personally, mine's like it's a very small aspect. It's watching TV. Because how many times do we actually sit down to watch live TV these days, and like just broadcasted stuff? Because honestly, I can't imagine the last time I've watched something like that. Because, for example, do you all watch Netflix or have a subscription or something? Because my younger sister now, like the way she gets like all her shows, it's like Netflix. She's never had to come back from school and be like, oh, I'm sitting down to watch a new show, So I think that was really something that I experienced when I was younger as well. So what about you, Timmy?
I feel for me, when I was younger, like 10, 11, 12, I went to boarding school, and I feel like that was like the best experience like of my life. Like, because I feel like if I didn't go to boarding school, I'd not be as mature as I am now. So I think that was the best experience for me.
Yeah, I think the next question would be, why can't we experience these things in our generation? Why do we think we can't experience these things so evidently nowadays? I go to you, Maury.
As I said it before, I think everything is just online now. So Netflix, it's just because I think Gen Z and like just our generation, we like simple things. So just one thing being on one place, I think that's like what we prefer. So like our Netflix is that we order food from there, we order clothes from there. I think it's just the convenience. That's really what it is. Yeah.
How about you, Julia?
Definitely the fact that now everything is online. Social media is obviously such a blessing, but at the same time it can be very costly, and there are lots of not consequences, but there are lots of cons to it. The fact that just even by posting a picture online, there's so many people that can anonymously message you about it and like bully you for it. So definitely now it's really, really hard to find truly kind and actually nice people around you, especially online because of the whole anonymous thing.
Yeah, that's so true. How about you, Naomi? With my thing, I feel like it would be, I don't know, like people, I don't know, like people like to play things on their little, what do you call those? Little, not PlayStation.
Nintendo Switch?
Nintendo Switches, yeah. People like to play things on that, and then they just talk to their friends online. Like I would invite my friends round over to come play on my trampoline, and we would have like stories and stuff or games we'd make up. But now people just chat online and play online, like Roblox and stuff.
Let's reverse. What is something that your parents did that you wouldn't like do to your child, or like, yeah, what is something that your parents did that you would do to your child nowadays? Julia, I'll start by you.
Honestly, I don't really know because my parents did a lot that obviously annoyed me at the time, like telling me off or telling me what to do all the time. But, you know, I feel like for me, it kind of benefited me to where I am today and the person that I am, because if it wasn't for them, then I don't know where I would be. And especially growing up, because whenever I was younger, I grew up in a single parent household. So seeing my mother being a very strong, independent woman kind of also helped me to kind of develop in that way as well, and to kind of be independent at a young age and be able to just do a lot of things by myself. So me personally, I don't think that I would change anything differently.
I think personally, I think the age of the internet that we all grew up in, because for example, I got my first phone when I was 10, and back then I was like, oh, that's even late, because I got like some of my friends had their first phone at like 8 or so. So I was like, "Ugh," I was impatient back then, but I think now I wouldn't so quickly introduce my own children to the internet in a sense. I'd maybe make it more monitored in a way, because not to make them like excluded or anything, but there will be some guidance on it, I think, if I was to raise children myself. How about you, Maury?
Well, personally for me, I think, okay, so as I've been growing up, like parents teaching you a lot of lessons, they've been shouting at you, you know. So I think when you're younger, you don't really understand the value of that. But until like you get older and you think, okay, what if I have kids? What if my if like I would discipline my kids in the same way, to be honest, because I think it was beneficial for me and the way I came out of like the teachings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think I would definitely use that type of style on my kids. Another thing I think would to be encourage my kids all the time to like try new things, try new sports, try new instruments, because I think those are great opportunities. But I can't think of anything I want my kids to do because my parents have really helped me along the way, to be honest.
Naomi? I feel the same way with like Maury and Julia. I don't think there's anything I would change with the way my parents have brought me up. Like, it's made me the person I am now, and I'm a solid person. So yeah, can't think of anything I'd change.
Yes. Just to move on, we all know we have older generations and they have influences on us today. So what are some things that you've heard maybe your grandparents, your parents maybe get, pet peeves? Everyone has pet peeves. So what are some pet peeves you heard from them that they don't like about our generation? I think just to start off, I think one thing I was asking my mom and she was like, oh, I don't like the way to take advice. If I was to ask for advice, right, I would go to my friends before I go to my parents. And she was like, they don't like listening to the older generation, but they'd rather ask each other. So I think that was something that was a peeve for her, I think. So what about you, Naomi?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like this generation specifically, but whenever we go out and stuff, my mom's always like commenting on the way people dress, and yeah. She's very, I don't know how to explain, but she's very, very. So she'll look at like skirt length and like how much open. I don't know. She's just stuff like that, I guess. Yeah.
How about you, Timmy?
I literally can't think of anything, but yeah, I can't think of anything. No, so.
Maury?
I think one thing the older generation don't like about this generation would be that, well, in my culture, specifically in the morning, when you see an adult, you have to greet them. You have to say, "Ekaro sa, ekaro ma." So I think because I personally get told off a lot for not doing that every morning. So I think that's one thing they're not so keen about. I think it's also the disrespect that can be portrayed. But I think we are working on it, and I think that yeah, I think it's a work in progress for all of us.
How about you, Julia?
One thing that's definitely annoyed my parents was that how us as our generation, we're always saying, we're like, be honest, just be honest with me, just tell me how it is, be honest, don't lie, don't sugarcoat it. But whenever you're actually being told that honesty, you really don't like it and you don't want to hear it.
It's true.
And I know that my mom has a lot of the time kind of forced me to be honest to her, and she's also been very, very honest, because in my family I grew up in a Polish household, now a Polish Nigerian household, and you know, both cultures are very honest. The way that it is, they'll say it, and you know, it's very, very beneficial to the person, even though you may not like it at the time, but you know, later on you can learn from it. You're like, oh, you know what, I really, really appreciate the fact that my dad told me that day that my hair was just looking a little bit off, because you know what, in that photo I look good. So it's those little things that my mom and my dad, they just did not like whatsoever. The fact that we would say be honest, but then when you're given that honesty, you don't like it.
What is one thing that like you don't like about the your pet peeve of the other generation? Like, say, like what do you think? Like for example, your parents do that. You're like, I don't.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you mean. Like things that maybe annoy us or tick us off for the older generation. I think to start off, one thing that is very prevalent in their generation is they're quite judgmental. I'm sorry, they're quite judgmental at times, because from looking at people and how they dress or how they like want to represent themselves, some things my dad has said, Lord have mercy, but we move. But I think that's one thing about them that I don't really like. They're quite judgmental on the way they take things or express the way they view people, the way they express the way they view people. I think that's one thing that's a bit iffy about them. How about you, Maury?
One thing that I say would annoy me is the humor sometimes.
The dad jokes.
The dad jokes all the time. But I think, like, of course you have to laugh because, you know, you don't want to be rude. But I think there's some things that they try to be funny and they try to be, like, relatable. But it's just not it. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I think that's one thing that annoys me a wee bit. So, yeah.
I think for me, like, we get stressed like a lot. I feel like the older generation needs to, like, the amount of stress they get, sometimes we get that as well. Like, it's not, you can't, like, I don't have to explain it. It's just like you can't do you understand what I mean? But yeah, you need to understand that
Little or stress.
yeah, because you're not helping. If I'm stressed, you're not helping me by like not like shouting on me and like you understand what I mean?
They're like you're too young to be
Yeah.
stressed.
Oh,
You
that's
don't
like the
work.
statement that I hate the most. Like that's the most annoying statement.
So
Yeah.
Maybe. I think my thing would, well, from my culture anyway, the thing that Maurice said, if you see like an adult from your culture or just an elder from your culture and you don't greet them, like you don't get down and you say Carol, Castle, whatever, they get like, they just think you're disrespecting them. It's not disrespect. It's I don't know, because how we're growing up now or just as surroundings. I don't know what it is, but it's not the first thing that comes to my mind. And it's not, I'm trying to be disrespectful. It's just, I forget.
Yeah, Frank. Speak.
no, I just think that because we're so different generations, I think we're always so misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I think what we see as disrespectful is different to what they see as disrespectful. So I feel like it comes across as we're trying to explain ourselves, but it seems rude, and I think it's just the clash of generations is quite annoying sometimes.
Like in my culture, like if you have guests over and you don't go downstairs to greet them, you're like in a big trouble because it's like your child is so rude. Like it's not everything that's been rude. Like sometimes you just literally. Yeah.
The one thing that definitely annoys me the most is that they're like my parents, I feel like they're quite unorganized and they're never like they say, oh yeah, we're gonna leave the house at 4:30. And we end up leaving the house at 5:15. I'm like, you're telling me this for what? Like I don't understand. Just stick to one thing, stick to a good time schedule. Let us all be organized, let us all go at a certain time. Even buying school uniform. Like I only got my school uniform last week, and I know some of my friends have already been having their uniforms for months.
Yeah.
And like,
Cool.
and I know that like me myself, I know that I like to be prepared and I like to have everything ready. And like sometimes my parents are like, look, but you know what? It's not a priority now. We have this event that we have to do. We have this place we have to go to. But I'm like, but for me, it's important. So just preparation.
Yeah. I think regardless of all of these cons, like I think we as a generation we tend to like revisit old trends or like the past or romanticize the past in fact. So I think finding things that are old yet gold, so to reference the title name, I think would you say there anything like in the past that you, for example, dressing, 90s clothes are coming back and everything. Like do you, well, I think it's a question of do you enjoy seeing those trends come back and like finding out reliving the past if to say in a sense. So that's a question to throw out there.
Yeah, some of the trends are like they're good. Some of the trends are good, but it's not. We shouldn't bring everything from the past. Like some things should stay where they're in. Yeah, that's what I would say. What do you think, Maury?
Yeah, I quite like looking back at my parents' old photos and like their music tastes back then to like listen to the songs I like liked. Some of them were good, and some of them I can vibe to. Some of them are just like, but they should stay in the past. But yeah, I think I also like thinking about the next generation and how they would see our generation.
Yeah.
How they would see our music tastes, our clothes, our sense of humor, and I feel like they would also be quite judgmental of us as well.
Because, like, for example, I went to a party with my mom and they were playing like old music, like their music back then, and they were like vibing, and I'm like, okay, like this, our kids are gonna see us whenever we're singing like any song, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of cute, but
That's like my dad as well. He'd play his old African songs. Like,
I'm like,
Maury, why are you not dancing to this? I'm like, what? Dance to this. It's not my music, but you do you, I guess.
yeah.
Sometimes,
Oh,
sorry.
No, Julia.
Sometimes I feel like the fact that like especially fashion trends, they just keep getting relived. I feel like there's nothing like new because obviously 90s are coming back and then like before it was the 80s came back. Like all these different things, they just keep on getting. And like whenever you think about it, like even in like the 90s and 80s back then, I was talking to my mum and she was saying that even then they were saying that that was already a throwback. So like what?
like
So
we're just
it just
reliving.
keeps on
Yeah.
reliving. So what's actually new? Because it's not really new, but I feel like we're just lacking that little bit of uniqueness, kind of.
I agree with Julia. We're not unique. We have no, I don't know. I can't really think of anything that, I don't know.
I think we are unique in some senses. I think our fashion taste is kind of unique. There's some parts of it. Some parts of it obviously we relive, but obviously if we're not unique, then our parents wouldn't be so judgmental, if you know what I mean. Like they obviously haven't seen it before. So there's some parts that are and some parts that aren't. So yeah.
It's so true. And I think it's so good to see everyone's point of view of what is considered old yet gold because we've all just gone round and be able to pick something out that we think was unique. So I think the next question we should move on to is, have we seen anything that's old but gold in other cultures, maybe your own culture or just cultures you've observed in the media or anything, Julia?
I don't really know because I've kind of only been surrounded by one culture. Well, not one, but I've been surrounded by the same culture for majority of my life. So there's nothing really new or different. But I know that definitely when when I met my dad, and I know that we started kind of bringing in the Nigerian culture a lot into our house. I know that definitely all the fashion, all the cooking, all the stuff that's been there for years and like years upon years upon years, it's been there. Definitely those are, as we say, iconic, and that are just always going to be old but gold.
Yeah. For me, I really like Hannah. Like, I don't, what culture does Hannah?
Yeah, the Indian culture.
Oh, it's like, I feel like that's like so nice because it's like a temporary tattoo, but yeah, I think it's nice.
Hannah's quite nice, yeah, I like it. I think for me would be like the strictness, I think. Like I do like it seems weird, but not overly strict, but some areas where
Oh yeah, definitely.
our parents like cautioned us, gave us some boundaries. I think that's good because that helped us to shape us as we are now. And I think I wouldn't be too lenient with my kids. I wouldn't spoil them, but I think the all teachings of strictness, I think. Yeah.
Well, I can't really. I've been. I don't think I've been exposed to as many cultures. I feel like I've been surrounded by the same things my entire life. So I can't really. Nothing gold, I guess. Everything's just old. Normal, I don't know.
That should be the catfish.
I think for me, because I always observe my parents or anything, so I think I was asking my mom this because trying to research for this episode. So I was asking her, I was like, "Oh, what are some things that you enjoy from the past or anything?" And of course, in Nigeria and everything, let's say for example, pounded yam, right? So they will use the big wooden stick and be pounding it, right? So she said that sometimes her mom would like to do that the old way rather than using maybe a blender or something. People use blenders. But yeah,
Nice, because when they pound it, that sweat is going into the pounded yam.
Wow.
I've seen
Yeah,
videos.
that's what makes it taste nice.
Stranger sweat in your pounded yam is not nice.
Bro.
No.
But I've never seen the blender.
I've never seen blessed.
Never have I.
Actually, though, yeah, there's you can process it. Like, there's I know what you're talking about. My mom has done that before. Yeah.
Interesting.
so I think that was one aspect of it being old but gold, at least from her perspective. But I really agree with Maureen's point that maybe not so old yet gold was like the strictness and the parenting. So that's a wrap from us today. Thank you for joining us, but you're going to be joining us live next week because it's our grand finale. Oh my God.
Exciting.
So you can join us as our live audience, but make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at UnmuteNow1. So remember, we are the podcast that raises the volume
of Western conversations in our communities.
So see you all next week.
Bye.